You're listening to Conversations with Kathy, podcast for women who are looking for a place filled with honest conversations, tangible takeaways, and new perspectives on life, love, and everything in between. And I'm your host, Katyan Roach. Let's jump right in. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Kathy. I just want to say thank you so much for all of your continued support, for your shares, for your reviews, for your words of encouragement. I truly, truly appreciate it. When my good friend Ross introduced me to Rani, I was extremely excited to hear her story. And when we finally spoke, I knew that her journey would be one that would inspire us to believe in the impossible. Rani shares her story of being born in a rural village in India, where her family pushed past stigma, taboo, and the social pressures to abort their differently abled baby girl. Rani has gone on to achieve more than anyone could have expected and is currently the head of global employee advocacy at Adobe. She is passionate about cultivating and nurturing communities and coaching others to do the same. Nicknamed the Velvet Hammer, Rani's mantra is to make the impossible seem possible through her humor, grace, and passion. And when she's not asking provocative questions and making declarative statements at work, Rani is making magical memories with her husband and 4 kids as they continue to visit the many wonders of the world. I also wanted to let you know that this week's episode is sponsored by my little book of mantras, 30 Days to a Happier, Healthier, More Loving You. And it's on sale now at Amazon. And guess what? I co-authored this book. So I hope that you would check it out. So let's jump right into my conversation with Rani. So Rani, I want to again thank you so much for taking the opportunity to talk to me. And I want to open up with one thing. When I looked you up, I found a video of you at an Adobe for All Summit in 2019. And one of the things that you had was a quote that said, many things are possible just as long as you don't know that they're impossible. And I really want to start off by asking you, why did you choose that quote and how is it relevant to your life story?
Oh, I chose that quote because that's how I live my entire life. It's so relevant to me because everything is a conditional yes to me, Katyan. Everything is about what is the next right thing for me to do. Mm-hmm. I don't ever accept a no. I don't ever think about why I can't do something or why something is wrong or anything like that, right? That is the quote that propels me forward. That is the quote that gives me like the wind beneath my wing to keep going.
Yeah.
Because I've met so many people in my life who have so much less than I do, who continue to do things.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think we are victims of our circumstances. I don't think it's a matter of education or money or having supportive people around you. All of those things help. But I just realized it's a mindset. It's an attitude.
Right. Yeah. You got this from where? Where did you start thinking like this? Because most of us can conceptualize it. We can say, yes, we believe it, we can repeat it, but we don't know how to put that into action. So how have you been able to put that into action in your life?
Well, I got it from my parents. There's no question. My parents really indoctrinated that thinking in my life, mm-hmm. into my mind, and then they modeled it for me, mm-hmm. right? And many things that people would normally say, oh, but because of your disability, why would you even consider doing that, right? Those were not conversations that we had. It was a matter of, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Right? How much better can you be at it? It's not even that I don't even think of it as putting it into practice because I know no other way.
Yeah.
Right? I honestly don't have a different paradigm to compare against.
You mentioned your disability. Right. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your childhood, your history. How has that impacted your life?
Well, I was born with cerebral palsy, right? So when I was born, I couldn't walk at all. And I've had it like 18 surgeries. And my dad is a Indian guru, if you will. He's a Vedic master. So he believed in all sorts of massages and Ayurvedic treatments. And my mom is very much into Western medicine. So I've had the best of both worlds.
Yes.
And, I've had a very magical childhood. So my memories of all of that pain and anguish is somewhat skewed because they made it so fun and they made it so bearable for me. And they allowed me to thrive through it because, again, of how they approach it. I mean, at the end, you must know, like, when a child falls down, they react based on your reaction, right? When a child falls down, if you start screaming and crying and getting all excited, they will model that same behavior. Similarly, when a child falls down, if you say, oh, oops, you fell down, let's get back up, right? They take on that mindset as well. A lesser set of parents probably would have been so upset and stressed and anxious. Because imagine your firstborn child not being able to walk, needing all these countless surgeries. That's a lot of stress. In that talk, at the end that you probably heard me say that my father's explanation to me of the disability was this. He said to me, Rani, you are so perfect that if it weren't for your disability, God had to give you this disability. He had to bless you with the disability, not for you, but for us.
Yeah.
Right? So that you will be equal to the rest of us.
Right.
So that you can be grounded here on earth and you wouldn't be translated into heaven, right?
Right.
When you hear that at such a young age, you truly start believing that you're unstoppable.
And I know your parents would have struggled with the decision, not the decision to have you, but all of the stigma with having a girl child in that society and in that culture, and then knowing that that baby would have also have a disability. So tell me a little bit about that.
So in the Kerala culture, in the Indian culture specifically, in the state of Kerala, where my parents are from, there's a certain notion that if you're born with a disability, that you're being punished for past sins.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stigma around, can you contribute to society? Will you be a burden to your family? And what can you possibly contribute? And so they had to defy all of that, right? And they had to say they truly believe that children born with any kind of a challenge, especially of the physical variety, those are extra blessings and you are particularly special. They're very God-fearing people. So they very much believe that we were given this lot in life because I was blessed and I'm able to bear it. You know, you're never given more than you can handle. And that I had superpowers, right?
Yeah.
And so based on my superpowers, I would be able to overcome these issues. They didn't even characterize them as issues.
Yeah.
Even talked about them as blessings.
Yeah.
This is going to allow you to be more empathetic. This is what's going to allow you to have more resilience and perseverance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're being given opportunities that other children don't have. When you're talked to like that, you ooze positivity, right? You have no choice.
I know you said that you didn't even realize that you had a disability until you were going on a field trip with your school.
Yes.
How old were you then?
12.
Yeah.
And that's because, one, I had a wonderful home environment, but I also had fantastic school environment. You know, typically you think kids are cruel, but the children that I was classmates with were so loving, so welcoming, so accommodating, right? Like I never felt like, oh, on the playground, I can't play with them. They always designed, I should say, it wasn't even they. I co-created games with them that I could also participate in, right? And they were more intellectual in nature. They weren't as physical, at least when I was there. And so it all worked, right? This is where I say I've had such a charmed and blessed upbringing. And I know this is not everybody's reality, right? 1 in 4 people in the US identify as disabled.
Yeah.
And I know that my story is very much the minority. And I understand that.
The reason why I was looking forward to talking to you is because I know that when you share your story, when a person shares their story, people can take away what they want from it. You can see it and say, well, that's you, you were lucky. Or you can say, okay, I can be inspired by this person's journey because I know that life was not easy for them. As much as you are here saying, it was okay, I know that there must have been moments that was not always easy for you. And I remember when you spoke about your trip to India to work with Mother Teresa. And I was like, wow. So it would be lovely to hear you tell that story, because I guess in that moment you did feel the challenges.
Oh, yeah. Much like any country that's still developing, right? In the sense of there are potholes and infrastructural issues, and
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult enough to be physically disabled in a country like the US,
Yeah.
let alone a third world country like India,
Yeah.
that in many ways is so superior in so many things. But infrastructurally, the roads or the countless stairs that you have to climb, or
Yeah.
the lack of elevators and lack of railings, and there is no Disabilities Act, right,
Yes.
where curbs have to be cut out. And so, it required a lot more planning on my end, right? I couldn't just get up and go because I had to think 10 steps ahead. If I go in this direction, what will I be met with? Will I be able to navigate that stairwell? Whatever it is. But again, it's like playing chess, right? It sharpens your mind. You can either take the approach of, oh my goodness, why me? Why do I have to go through the struggle? Or I personally took it as a game, right? Like, how can I beat it? What do I need to outthink, right? Like, how can I better prepare and plan? And
Mm-hmm.
so, sure, there were challenges, but then again, it's nothing compared to the people I was serving.
So
I
tell me
mean,
about this experience. How old were you, and tell me what happened?
yeah, I was 18. I was a part of a group of 10 people. It was called Partnership in Service Learning. It was the name of the organization. And we were assigned to the Home for the Sick and Dying, which is one of Mother's many homes that she oversees.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were told in the US, when we were briefed and given all the information, we were told we'll be doing some light fundraising and public relations, right?
Right.
And so my undergraduate is in psychology, and I knew I wanted to go in and get my MBA. And these were fields that I was interested in,
Right.
fundraising, public relations, and all. And so I thought, okay, great. This will check off 2 boxes, right? I'll get some real world experience. I'll be able to serve people. I'll be able to go back to my motherland. It's going to be a wonderful thing all around.
Yeah.
And so I get there. All 10 of us gets there. We arrive in the dead of night in Calcutta. And Calcutta is considered the poorest, the poorest corner of the world. I mean, it's just literally, and yet it's also considered the city of joy. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen that movie by Patrick Swayze called The City of Joy, where children who literally have nothing are walking hand in hand with the brightest, most joyful smile. Anyway, so we arrive, and after getting off the plane, we arrived in the home, and Mother hands us rags, right? Each of us were given a rag, a literal like dishcloth.
Mm-hmm.
And she pointed out, and she said, do you all see these people? And of course we did. And we started trembling because it was like a mile long, deep group of people just like wrapped around the building.
Wow.
And her comment to us was, go help these people die with dignity. And Kathy and I was like, first of all, what is dignity? Like, how
Yeah.
do I even know how to spell dignity? And how do you help anyone die?
Yeah.
No one in my life had died.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what that was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the most heart-wrenching, like my heart was literally beating outside my chest, and I did not know what to do. But over time, she taught us, and it was a lot of on-the-job learning. And the reality is, the individuals taught us as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mother said to us that your number one job is to listen.
Yeah.
Don't judge. Don't offer advice. Listen attentively. Be incredibly curious, right? Allow these people to tell their stories, validate their existence on earth.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And it was the most transformative time of my life.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That was an interesting moment. Did you have moments where you thought, okay, I can't do this, I want to go home? Or was it just, okay, you got the hang of it and you were just there for it?
Well, 3 days into the whole experience, my 9 other buddies, they all left,
Wow.
right? They said, this is not what we signed up for. And they all left. And I knew that I came from parents who would literally close the door on me if I right? They were not going to let me back in the house because my brother and I were raised that you always finish what you start. And whatever commitment you made, you finish it out.
Right.
Short of anything illegal or abusive, right? You stay and you finish. And
Yeah.
so it was not even a figment of my imagination that I would be returning home. But were there moments throughout that time where I thought my heart was coming out of my chest, where I thought I could not breathe? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, my commitment was a year, but I mean, a month, but I ended up staying a year because it was so addictive, Katyan. Helping people at that level,
Yeah.
I couldn't get enough of it. It
Yeah.
was the most primal, like people were living or dying, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, let me make someone a casserole
Yeah.
because they're feeling ill, right? This was people's salvation. This was, you were the last person before they made their transition.
Do you have a story or an experience there that just stands out that you can recall, or a person that just for you was probably a life-changing moment or something that you would always remember?
Oh, so many. But one in particular was there was a school administrator who was a very high up person.
Yeah.
And he explained to me, each of us are only one or two decisions away from being penniless and homeless and familyless.
Wow.
So please don't ever judge any of us.
Yeah.
Right? And this gentleman just explained to me how he had everything. He was the cream of the crop of society. He was always going to these incredible, elaborate parties. And India is very much a hierarchical society. So the higher up you are economically, the more people are around to serve you. So he was constantly surrounded by servants and people to help him. And yet here he was. He just explained in the most primal way that we all come here on earth as equals.
Yeah.
We all leave as equals.
That's so
right?
true.
And whatever happens in between the dash is, that's what's up to us. And, he wasn't feeling regretful or anything, but he was just explaining, don't think that this cannot be you.
Yeah.
And that was a very poignant message to me.
Yeah. I want to go back just a little bit because I know a lot of times when a parent gets a diagnosis or their child is born with some sort of disability, doctors don't hold a lot of hope. Doctors are not really good at giving you a lot of hope. For example, I was looking at a show on television today and the guy said he had fallen and he had hit the back of his head and he had damaged his spinal column. And the doctor said he'd never walk again. And here he was standing in front of this panel, walking. And it just hit me that sometimes doctors can be I don't know if they're trying to prepare you for the worst. I don't know what it is, but they tend to give you these worst case scenarios. And I would think that in your life, you'd have also heard about what you would not be able to do. And you have come and you've just okay, I have just blown everything out of the water in terms of what you would have told me that I couldn't do. What were you told?
Yeah, no, my parents were under extreme societal pressure to abort me when they detected that I was not developing normally, right?
Yeah.
Because of all the societal, cultural thinking around disability. So they were under a lot of pressure, but luckily my mother was able to immigrate to the US because of her nursing scholarship and, because of their strong faith, they would never consider abortion or anything like that. So that was one thing. But then as I grew up, I had an amazing committee and cabinet of advisors and supporters. And out of their sheer love and protection for me, many of them said, don't consider going to school. Why don't you take an online course? We have so much technology and don't even think about getting married or having children. Like, why would you want to succumb your heart to that kind of ache? What if you can't find someone who will love you for who you are?
Yeah.
Because of your disability, not in spite of it.
Yeah.
What if you can't conceive children? Right? Why would you want to set yourself up for failure? Don't hope too much. Don't dream so big. Forget it. Don't even think about going overseas.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to navigate the US. Why would you want to put yourself in that situation? And then working outside the home, why do you think you could do that? Right? All of these things were said to me.
So many stoppers.
So many stoppers, and not out of negativity. Nobody was ill-intentioned, right? It wasn't malice. They were just trying to love me and protect me and preserve me from any failure or any heartache. But we all know anything good comes with a certain amount of heartache and a certain amount of possibility of failure.
Yeah.
But luckily, Kathy and I have a very rebellious spirit, right? And I'm very, very sassy, and my parents hardwired this sense of rebellion in me. And so every time somebody told me not to do something or I couldn't do something, that was my ticket for, let me show you. Let me excel at it.
Yeah.
So again, like my parents had told me, these are all blessings, right?
Yeah.
These are all propellers that catapulted you forward. And so I see them for what it is. And those same people that were being so protective are my biggest fans today.
So now you have proven all of them wrong. Because of course you went on to have, tell me, how many kids?
Oh my goodness, four of them.
All right.
Amazing. My oldest is 21, and I have a son who's 19, and then a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. So.
Right. And you've been married for?
Oh my goodness, 26. Now it's going on 27 years. Yeah.
Right. So we're checking out all of those boxes that I told you that you couldn't do. And then you are not working necessarily from home, simply probably because of COVID you are. But you went on to actually do what?
Yeah, I am the head of employee advocacy at Adobe. And it's just a phenomenal job and a fantastic company. And, I've traveled the world, and that's my next set of things to do. And on my bucket list is to go visit the 7 wonders of the world, both modern and ancient. Yeah, so much more to do, living to do.
I think you have said it all, but I want to just wrap this up by you talking directly to a parent who may have a child with a disability and have heard all of the things that their child supposedly will not be able to do. I want you to encourage them. I want you to close this by just giving them some words of encouragement.
I think the best words of encouragement is how we started the conversation. Children come out of the womb believing they are Superman and Superwoman. Do not take that away from them. Nurture that, cultivate that. Don't rob them. Do not rob them. Out of your fear, out of your love, out of your desire to protect them and to help them be practical. Allow them to be unreasonable, right? Allow them to dream and dream big and dream with them. Dream with them and allow them for as long as they can, because at some point they're going to have to, go out of your reach. And then the world will indoctrinate them. But for as long as they're within your sphere of influence, allow them to believe they can jump from airplanes and that they can conquer the world. Because as you think, right, as you think and as you speak, you define your future. You define your reality, right? I truly, truly believe that the quality of your words and the quality of your thoughts determine the quality of your life. That is an absolute proven fact. And so be a part of that, right? Don't, as parents, go against that very natural law.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for taking the opportunity to talk to me, because even after hearing you say what you just said, I want to go home and go hug my son and tell him he could do whatever he wants to do. He could be whatever he wants to be. So thank you so much, Rani. Thank you.
You are so welcome. This has been a fun conversation.
Thank you for listening to Conversations with Kathy. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. It helps others just like you to find the show. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Kathy Ann Roach, or in my Facebook group, Conversations with Kathy, where we connect live, discuss the episodes, and share tips for improving our lives. So until next time.